YouTubers out there. This is Jerry Saravia at the movies. I've purposely not been discussing remakes for a little while now of classic films. But this one I'm going to mention very briefly, and why I think it's probably not a very good idea. A remake would be Poltergeist, which was an on-again, off-again, on-again type remake. It was announced it was going to be done, then it wasn't going to be, then it was, and of course now it is. It's being shot, at least being worked on, and will be released in July of 2015. Sam Raimi is producing this, as if the Evil Dead remake wasn't bad enough. He is now producing a Poltergeist remake. Well, so there are no words to even describe this. I mean, the cast is not bad. That's Sam Rockwell, who's a bit of an underrated, unsung actor. Rosemary DeWitt. But the thing is, actually, Rosemary DeWitt was quoted as saying the following about the Poltergeist remake, that it's the same story, but it's set now and sort of in a depressed economic situation. And it's an American family who's on iPods and other gadgets, a lot more technology in it. It's not just the TV. Now, the original Poltergeist film came out in 1982. And that film, directed by Tobe Hooper, produced at that time by Steven Spielberg, and of course it's been said that Steven Spielberg practically directed most of the movie. Tobe Hooper says otherwise. Tobe Hooper has also been quoted saying Spielberg was on the set almost all the time, pretty much providing a lot more direction than he did, than Tobe did rather. Now, anyway, the story of that film is it's a family living in typical suburbia, with all the typical suburban trappings you might expect. The father is played by Craig T. Nelson, and then there's a little girl, Carol Ann, played by the Heather O'Rourke, who passed on before even Poltergeist 3 was finished filming, and also Dominique Dunne, who unfortunately also passed away, killed by her boyfriend. I think this was, I forget, it was 2 or 3 years later after Poltergeist. Jo Beth Williams was the wife. Beatrice Straight was one of the, I don't want to say ghost hunters, but she was involved in parapsychology as a parapsychologist. And then there was Zelda Rubinstein, who I think also passed away, who played the psychic, etc., etc. That film, what it did so well was it had an element of intensity and danger around it. In other words, the feeling was he didn't want this family to deal with this reality that they were being haunted by ghosts. And Carol Ann disappears through the television, I think, and she's somewhere with, inside the walls, and they try to get her. But it was a perfect little ghost story, and it was done with special effects and everything else. I mean, it wasn't exactly The Haunting from 1963 or The Uninvited, where much more was suggested than actually shown, but it was scary. It was very humanistic. It was a family you really did care about, with great characters and nightmarish moments. Least of all, the guy that's tearing his face apart, but he's imagining the whole thing. It was a very intense, blood-curdling type of entertainment, but it was just exceedingly well made, and pretty much iconic. Carol Ann saying "they're here," and her hands on the television. I mean, you can't really beat that. You can't make that better. I mean, I almost want to say it's like trying to remake E.T., the extraterrestrial. I mentioned it because that came out the same year, and it looked like that film was set in almost the same suburban neighborhood. I mean, why? Granted, throughout the history of film, dating back now to 1895, there have been remakes of movies, of course. There have been lots of remakes. Dracula has been done to death in so many different various incarnations. Frankenstein, The Mummy, But nobody's really remade Gone with the Wind. Now, I'm not saying Poltergeist is Gone with the Wind, but you see what I'm getting at. Why doesn't anybody remake that? Well, that's because you can't really improve that film. I mean, and why would you want to touch it? Nobody's remade Chinatown, thank God. Nobody's remade Raiders of the Lost Ark. Nobody's remade Taxi Driver. I'm going to look at some of the titles I have here on DVD. Nobody's remade Goldfinger, Vertigo, Koyaanisqatsi, Apocalypse Now, The Dirty Dozen, maybe Glorious Bastards. Granted, somebody did remake Nosferatu, but that was a great movie in and of itself. Nobody's remade Easy Rider. Somebody did take a stab at Rosemary's Baby on television, Zoe Saldana. Nobody's remade Citizen Kane. Nobody's remade Some Like It Hot. Somebody did remake Manchurian Candidate. Nobody's remade Shortcuts. In fact, nobody's remade any of Robert Altman's films. Nobody's remade MASH. So, Poltergeist. Why? Why bother doing that movie? Now, there may be some that say, well, they can improve it today with CGI. No, screw you, man. What are you talking about? Can you improve the performances that were given in that film? It'll be tough. Because they were really strong performances. Very emotionally centered. Because that film, ultimately, it's not just about defeating the ghosts, it's about getting the little girl back from the ghosts. These remakes, they go on and on and on, and there's still been talk throughout the years about The Exorcist being remade. Feature film, maybe for television. Sometimes on television they don't do it better. I mean, there was even a sequel to Rosemary's Baby done on television. And not the best of its kind, So I guess what I'm saying is, there are other stories that could be done that haven't been done. I'm sure of it. Do them. Forget Poltergeist, but of course it's too late now. It's coming out. So there you have it. Whew. Poltergeist, 2015, July. I'm not going to be one of those in attendance at the movies to see it. It's got to be really something quite unique. But if they wanted to do a different kind of unique haunted house story, like they did with, oh my goodness, The Conjuring, and others that have even come out before, long before that. There have been interesting variations. The Entity, which I'd seen actually for the first time not too long ago, but I might have seen it back then in 1982 with Barbara Hershey as a woman that claims to be raped by a ghost. The Haunting. Evil Dead was its own kind of variation on the haunted house, when you really get down to it. Whew. Poltergeist, good God. And Sam Raimi. I mean, what's going on there? That's just weird. Alright, so there you have it. I don't know. See it, don't see it. But why is it being made is the real question. Money, of course. Money rules all. This is Jerry Saravia at the movies. And signing off.